By so much human suffering, poverty, and deprivation. It is in your hands to make of our world a better one for all. It is time for new hands to lift the burden. It is in your hands to make a difference.
All right, now, so ahead of Mandela Day tomorrow, already we've seen some enthusiastic South Africans that have already begun their Mandela Day 67 Minutes initiatives. We've seen ahead, of course, of Tata's the global icon's birthday. Now, thousands of meals, for example, in Durban today were packed for preschool learners, part of a joint effort by an NGO and private sector to distribute 3 million meal packs to needy children tomorrow. But to chat overall, of course, about Mandela Day, of course, we've invited the granddaughter of the late elder statesman, Ndileka Mandela. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. It's great to see you again.
Oh, thank you so much. Good evening to you and to the viewers.
Thank you very much, Sis Ndileka. 6 years on, you know, I think I've spoken to you many a times about how do we preserve the legacy of Tata Nelson Mandela, but now's the time to ask, are we even doing justice to the legacy of Utata?
Well, we've done well in some instances, but there's great room for improvement, specifically on the topic that we'll be tackling on Friday on ethical leadership. There's a lot that still needs to be done there.
I look back every time, every year, when everyone is encouraged to go out and do the 67 minutes to help others. Wouldn't the world be a better place if that 67 minutes was done every single day? Wouldn't we be a better people? We always say it starts with us and what we can do every single day to change the lives of everyone.
It would be phenomenal, hence the call for ethical leadership. And when you talk ethical leadership, yes, we're talking leadership that embraces certain attributes like transparency, competence, accountability, responsibility, integrity. But certainly it is also leadership that is intrinsic, that comes from within, not only positional leadership. Yeah. Because before you can lead other people, you have got to be able to lead yourself.
That's right. I want to talk about that. On Friday, of course, you'll be speaking at this event on ethical leadership, and I can't help but just look to a couple of hours ago when you had Chief Justice Mogoeng
Yes.
also touch quite importantly on that aspect. I mean, where do we sit as South Africa in terms of leadership? I want to talk about the continent as well.
Okay.
In terms of leadership in South Africa, one certainly cannot argue that there are some wrongs that have been made. Where do you think we stand in South Africa in terms of leadership?
We stand on the back foot. Pure and simple. If we were not standing on the back foot, we would not have the Zondo Commission of Inquiry. Precisely why we're having that Commission of Inquiry is because leadership has failed. And we want to probe into what happened. And from there, how can we move forward to a leadership that is embodied in the archetype of that of my grandfather, because he was an archetypal leader that led with humility, with a sense of service and purpose to his people.
You know, that was actually my next question. I mean, South Africa is obviously faced with a number of challenges just by looking at the commissions that are sitting currently in the country that speak to quite a number of things of where we are in terms of the wrongs that have been done. What do you think needs to be done? I can only but presume on Friday you will speak about the leadership qualities of Utata and what all of a sudden went wrong. How do we even rectify so much that has gone wrong? And I say this with conviction because we would not be having the kinds of inquiries that we're seeing in the country currently.
It is through partnership with various stakeholders. There is the government, there is the unions, there's civil society, there's also the citizens. We've partnered in this program specifically, we've partnered with the UN, UNDP, Public Service Commission, because it deals with the civil servants, the National School of Government, and the Ndileka Mandela Foundation. And we're also making this an intergenerational dialogue, because before we can come to any solution, we need to sit around the table and dialogue.
Yeah.
And that intergenerational dialogue involves the older generation who have the wisdom and the younger generation who have the innovative ways of what it is that you can do to bridge the divide between these two generations.
Ndileka, how do we ensure that we don't just talk? It is phenomenal that we can sit around the table and have these discussions countless times, but you speak about accountability, and accountability is something that we've not seen. Many are asking, will there be any accountability, or will anybody be held to account, for example, for the wrongs that have been done in this country through these commissions of inquiry that we are seeing? What would you like to see emanate from some of these inquiries, for example, that have been put in place to dialogue, try and get to the bottom of what happened, and of course that accountability emanate from what some would describe as a talk shop?
It is consequence management. If people have done things wrong, they must take responsibility, and there has got to be consequences for that. The time for talk is over. To say that people are going to be measured against their KPIs, and they're not measured, and when they do things that fall short of that, nothing is done. Consequent management is of key importance. If a person has not performed in their portfolio, they must pay the price of not performing in that portfolio, because we can have as many laws and as many policies as we want. If those are not implemented, nothing can happen. We'll go around in circles.
Do you think we have the political will to deal with?
It's up to us as a citizenry to make sure that happens. And oftentimes, as a citizenry, we wait for government, which is why there is this great call that we're making for civil society, for active citizens, for various stakeholders to take charge of their lives, because it's not only up to government, it's up to us to hold them accountable. Why do we continue voting for the people that let us down time and time again? It's time to say, when it comes to the next vote, does the person that I vote for emulate my own value system? Because that's where it goes wrong. We listen to the rhetoric that the politicians say when they want the votes, and not stopping and thinking, does this person on their daily life emulate my own value system? Until we do that, we'll keep on circulating the same leaders that let us down. And it's up to us as a citizen, because we put those people there.
You would obviously have known Granddad more than anybody else.
Yes.
What do you think he would say? I mean, what do you think he would say today about where we are? And I ask this because you'll be speaking on ethical leadership. You'll talk about Dr. Madiba and the ideals that he stood for, which are very far off from where we sit today as a nation.
Granddad was never one to shy away from telling it like it is. And even in this instance, he would tell it like it is. Granddad was not afraid to tell Bush when he wanted to invade Iraq what he felt about it. Even in this instance, he would definitely tell it like it is, that they are falling short of the founding fathers and the founding document of this glorious organization, the ANC, which is the Freedom Charter. He would be very vocal about it.
And disappointed?
Very disappointed.
Sister Ndileka, I want to go very way back, and I'm hoping our team would be able to put that video up here. And you know, we're also in a period of mourning as we celebrate Utata, a period of mourning Johnny Clegg, the great Johnny Clegg, who's passed on. And in 1999, actually it was Mam Sophie Mukwena who reminded me of this, that in 1999 it was when Johnny Clegg was performing in Frankfurt and Tata was on stage, and you know, let's just have a look at those visuals. I'm hoping they'll be able to bring them up. And what goes through mind, because when you talk about the likes of Johnny Clegg, those are some of the people who come close to sharing, I guess, some of those ideals through his music, of course, of cross-border love, you know, and sharing the ideals of us being one. So what comes to mind, you know, when you look at, I hope they can bring that up, when you have Tatu Madiba and Johnny Clegg on the same stage? I mean, we can't shy away from those ideals.
Well, what comes to mind is what can happen when we take off the mask of looking at people and seeing race. And seeing people as people, not profiling them according to their race. Johnny Clegg certainly taught us that we are more than just our race and cultures, and still we can be able to retain that, our own identity, and be able to interact with each other. When you see those two, and especially when Granddad wanting to repeat, you know, you can certainly see the camaraderie that they felt, they shared, and also that to the two of them, there is no black and white. They just see human beings. And that is what, in essence, embodies Johnny Clegg and my grandfather, that to them, people were human beings. Yes, we may belong to different races and cultures, but you belong to one race, the race of humankind.
Sister Ndileka, thank you so much for your time, and all the best for that chat you'll have on Friday. It is, of course, a United Nations event in Pretoria.
Yes, in Pretoria.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Of course, the granddaughter of the late elder statesman Nelson Mandela, Sister Ndileka Mandela, talking to us tonight, of course, ahead of Mandela Day tomorrow on Friday. She will give a talk on ethical leadership. Of course, it's an event of the United Nations here in Pretoria, and certainly she will touch on the ideals of her late granddad.